In today's episode of Today in World War II, January 16th, the very last cavalry charge ever, on the American side anyway, happens in the Philippine Islands. The Soviets capture another key airfield that's supplying and keeping Stalingrad afloat. A heroic B 7 team somehow makes it back to base after a raid over Germany, despite incredible odds against it. The Germans are pushed back to their original front lines before they had started the Battle of the Bulge. And finally, in an example of more Soviet brutality and barbarism, Raoul Wallenberg was transferred to Moscow from Budapest. Let's get started. So on today, in January 16, 1941, I believe it is. Yes, I'm sorry, 42. The Japanese and the Filipino American cavalry were in a race to capture a very important position on the Bataan Peninsula. It's called Morong. And it was interesting because obviously the side that got there first would have the advantage. The They got there about the same time, but the advantage for the Americans and the Filipinos was that they detected the Japanese first, and so in a I don't know, an homage to the old Western and the frontier days, the American cavalry, which still existed because they hadn't killed them yet to eat them, they charged on horseback and they dispersed the Japanese troops and they were able to take the town. And like I said, this was interesting from a historical point of view. It's kind of a trivial pursuit, a little nugget of knowledge, is that it was the very last time that the American cavalry ever charged or participated in an offensive in American history, which is pretty interesting. But what happens pretty much every day, and as I get more and more viewers coming to find my channel, it happens even more often is that they subscribe. And that's what you should do if you haven't subscribed yet. It's very simple. There's a subscribe button below the screen. Click it. There's a bell that you can click, and that will notify you whenever I drop a new video. Isn't modern technology amazing? That's just wow. You need to take advantage of it. So do that for me, and that would be awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you. On January 16th, 1942, the Soviets captured another airfield in the Rostov-on-Don area that was being used by the Luftwaffe to support Stalingrad. It would fly in supplies, and then it would bring out wounded German soldiers. Well, with the loss of the airfield that they took yesterday, which I covered earlier in the week and in a video. Now, this new one, Pitomnik Airfield, west of Stalingrad, that was cut off too. So there weren't very many airfields left. And look, don't get the impression I'm telling you that somehow if they had kept these airfields going, they would have been able to survive. The Luftwaffe was not even coming close to supplying the Germans with all the food and the munitions and the reinforcements they needed and to get the wounded soldiers out. It was never going to work. The math just was not in the Germans' favor. This is more like the coup de grace. This is kind of like putting the enemy out of its misery in a sense, because even what little they were getting helped them stay going a little bit. But once these airfields were taken out of the consideration, it was just a matter of just days and maybe a few weeks before that happened. And we're going to cover that when Stalingrad falls in upcoming videos. Isn't it nice that I've given you all this day-to-day compilation of what happened in World War II and all the context behind it? Well, if you like that, then you are honor bound to click on the thumbs up below the screen to like the video and to leave a comment. And we have like an even trade here. I'm giving you free content that you like. You're liking the video and leaving a comment, and then that will help me grow my channel. So I think it's pretty good. Okay, I appreciate that. Now on January 16, 1944, wow. there was an incredible survival trip by a B-17 that had taken part in a bombing raid over let's see, Oschersleben in Germany. Okay. It was severely damaged. It lost two of its engines. And to get home, the pilot decided that he was going to fly as low as possible. But it wasn't just that. He told all of his gunners that as they flew over enemy towns and villages, they were low enough to where they could use trees as a cover to keep them as safe as possible from enemy fighters. Now, safe is a relative term here. That's doing a lot of heavy lifting. Okay. They were still getting attacked all the time. And it wasn't just from German fighters. I mean, shoot, the anti-aircraft gunners were actually shooting down at them. That's how low they were. But the American air crews on the air crew on this B-17, they were giving it as good as it got. I mean, they were strafing anything. They were strafing houses. They were strafing any troops they saw. It was a bar fight, if you want to call it that. Anyway, the name of the bomber was a Spirit of 44, and it was credited with shooting down 10 enemy fighters. And it finally got through. They finally got back to England. The ship's nose had been shot to pieces. There were gaping holes all over the fuselage and the wings. That just goes to show you how durable those B-17s were. And boy, it took a lot to shoot them down. And boy, what a heroic episode that was. And I don't know if they got any medals for it, but they certainly deserved it. In January 16th, 1945, the U.S. First and Third Armies linked up in Belgium, and in the meantime, the British Second Army was attacking along the Maas River. So this was a culmination of Eisenhower's brilliant plan to not cut the head off the snake and surround it and kill the pocket. No, you know, he wanted to push the snake back while keeping the snake's head alive. Well, this is what happened. So, on today's date, the Battle of the Bulge officially ended because the Germans were pushed back to their original line before they launched the Battle of the Bulge to begin with back in mid December. Finally, a very sad and tragic note on January 16th, 1945, the Soviet Foreign Office in Budapest told Sweden that Raoul Wallenberg, who was working with the Swedish diplomatic corps to get Swedish papers to save as many Jews as possible from the Holocaust, even this late in the day of the war. Well, he was when the Soviets took Budapest, they captured him. They knew that he was working for Sweden. They knew he was a neutral. The NKVD, which was the name of the Soviet KGB in the day back in the day, they arrested him, threw him into prison. Initially, he was in Budapest. Now, on today's date, Sweden was informed that he had been transferred to Moscow, where he spent the remaining part of his life in the Soviet Union, and he was, just to let you know, after the war in 1947, he was executed by the NKVD or the Soviet KGB. Great people, great country. Anyway, thank you again for watching this video. I appreciate it. I can't wait to talk to you again tomorrow.